Hey guys, welcome back. We are almost done with Unit 3, and today we're going to learn how to solve quadratic equations by the quadratic formula. Your I can statement is that you're going to be able to solve any quadratic equation by applying the formula, even the ones that can't be factored. So that means since we've learned how to factor, there must be some that we can't do that way, and this will help us. For vocabulary, you'll have two things to get down in your vocabulary. They're really more like formulas to write, so please copy everything here. If you're given the general standard equation formula, ax squared plus bx plus c, when that's set equal to 0, here is, ta-da, the quadratic formula that we have to use, and it'll make us be able to solve any quadratic equation. We just need to identify A, B, and C, then substitute those values into the formula. Yes, it looks messy. Yes, you have to memorize it. Lucky you, your teacher will show you YouTube videos or sing songs for you. Yes, you'll learn those, and you'll have it memorized. Our second vocabulary term is discriminant. That is b squared minus 4ac. It's a value. Notice that is the part from the quadratic formula that is under the square root symbol, the radical symbol. That value, the discriminant value, tells you the number and types of answers that you will get. And as a review, please remember that answers can be called roots, they can be called solutions, they can be called zeros, and they are also and can be called the x-intercepts of the equation. Why is the discriminant important? It's important because it tells you the number and types of answers that you will get. You do not need to copy all of this that is typed here. Let's just write a couple examples out. The discriminant can turn out to be positive, negative, or 0, which actually tells us a lot. Since that discriminant is under a radical symbol, let's think about what it means if you get a positive, negative, or 0 under there. And we'll do some quick examples and then run into it more later. Let's put a positive number under the radical. The square root of 100 is 10. But wait, if you remember, we've learned that there's really two answers there. So the square root of 100 is either 10 or negative 10. Two answers. There are other possibilities where they might not be whole numbers, but still what we're seeing is that a positive number under the radical for the discriminant gives us two answers. Let's put a negative number under the radical sign. Still the positive and negative possibility. Whether you remember or not, what that negative does for us is pulls out an I. So there are two answers here still, positive 10I and negative 10i. You might need a refresher course on the imaginary numbers, but still two answers. The third possibility is a value of 0 under the radical. Still, if you put that positive and negative out front, the square root of 0 is 0. So the answer is both positive or negative 0, but since it's neither positive nor negative, there's just one answer when that value turns out to be 0. So we will see this more later, but there's the beginning of why the discriminant is important. It tells you whether you have two answers or one answer, and as you can see right here, it can also indicate whether you'll have imaginary answers or real answers. Okay, here we go. Let's begin by writing out the quadratic formula. You might want to, after you do this first part, you might want to stop and just pause the video, or just watch the video and listen to the steps and then go back and fill them in yourselves. Once you get the formula written down, it's important that you go ahead and list A, B, and C. That's from the standard form of the equation. A equals 3, B equals negative 26, C equals 16. And let's start substituting in. X equals negative b, you want to read as the opposite of b. b is negative 26, so we want to write down positive 26, plus or minus square root of, And this is an important step right here to kind of get yourself in the habit of writing some blank parentheses for the B, A, and C under that radical symbol, and that'll help you get going. 2 times A on the bottom will be 2 times 3. Now let's fill in those blank parentheses. B squared would be negative 26 squared minus 4 times A times C. Continue by copying everything. This is a good habit also. Go ahead and write out 26 plus or minus and do a small square root symbol all over the 2 times 3, 6, so that as you fill out the discriminant value, then you can go put just that one number under the radical. Negative 26 squared is 676. Minus 4 times 3 times 16 is minus 192. Do the subtraction, you get 484. So that's the value of the discriminant. It goes under the radical. Then continue. X equals 26 plus or minus the square root of 484, which is 22, all divided by 6. And this is where you get to the part because of the plus minus and because the value of the discriminant is a positive number, you have 2 answers. So it's time to split it up. You've seen us do this before. And X can be equal to 26 plus 22 divided by 6 or 26 minus 22 divided by 6. That's where our 2 answers come from. The top one gives us 48 over 6, which is 8. The bottom one gives us 4 over 6, which simplifies to 2/3. There's your 2 values for X. Okay, example 2 looks a little different, and here's why. It is not in standard form yet, so let's rearrange. That will be 2n squared plus 9n minus 81 equals 0 when you set it equal to 0. And now let's write our quadratic formula. Once again, opposite of b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And let's list a, b, and c. A is 2. B is 9, C is negative 81. If you'd like to pause it here and see if you can get everything filled in correctly yourself, do that, and then come back and see if you have the same things I have. Check and see if you have what I have. For the discriminant value, I had 81 minus negative 648. That gave us 729. And now when I fill in the simplified version below, we're going to finish it off. Negative 9 plus or minus square root of 729 happens to be another perfect square, 27, all divided by 4. And it's time to split it into 2 problems. Negative 9 plus 27 divided by 4, negative 9 minus 27 divided by 4. 18 over 4, which simplifies to 9/2. Negative 36 over 4, which simplifies to negative 9. So if you want to write your solution separately, x can be equal to 9/2, and x can be equal to negative 9. 2 answers. For example 3, let's begin like we have on each one, but then I'd like for you to try it yourself and stop when you get the discriminant value. So here's my completed work. The discriminant value I got as a simplified answer was 137. Now when we get to this next step, typically we've been taking the square root of 137. But in this particular problem, that cannot be simplified. So the good news is that means you're actually done. Now there are 2 answers still because 137 is positive. When we talked about the discriminant being positive means there's 2 answers. It's 2 irrational answers. We cannot simplify 137. Our final answer is just as it looks there. Negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 137 all divided by 4. There are 2 answers because you could go negative 7 plus that value and negative 7 minus that value. Example 4, finding the discriminant is the trickiest part of the entire quadratic formula, so sometimes they just ask us to work on that. So let's try that here, but remember to begin, we need a, b, and c from standard form, so let's rewrite that. 4x squared plus 6x plus 7 equals 0. Now a is 4, b is 6, c is 7. Now to find the discriminant, we just need the part of the formula that's from underneath the radical. That is b squared minus 4ac. Not the radical, just the part under it. Let's fill that in just like we were doing with blank parentheses earlier. That's a great habit. B squared would be 6 squared minus 4 times a times c. Let's work that out. 36 minus 112. The value of the discriminant is negative 76. Now, this is the first time in any of our examples we've had a discriminant whose value was negative. That means that there are still two answers, but they are two imaginary answers. And that's all we need to know about that right now. So to recap everything, the quadratic formula looks messy, can be a little messy, but it will help us solve any equation, which is why we need it. The equation must be in standard form or equal to 0 so that you can name a, b, and c. And then the discriminant is super important because it lets you know what type of solutions you will get, and that is the messiest part of it, so it's where you need to be the most careful. If you have any questions still, please go back and rewatch the video or also watch some of the additional videos or talk to your teacher.